I'd say you were crazy and ask what year you time traveled from. But here we are. This video is sponsored by Audible. This strange box contains the world's first hot dog style folding smartphone. You know, where it folds long ways instead of the fat hamburger style way, right? Anyone else learn that in school? We've tested folding phones here in the past on my channel with the Galaxy Fold and the FlexPi. But both of those were kind of like folding tablets. And this guy, well, it's more like a folding phone. This might also be the first phone where you want to keep the box. It's got a built-in rubber stand that will redirect the phone's speakers out the base towards the front. Kind of interesting. Let's see what else is in the box before we say hello to MoTo. In this fancy magnetic case, we get some instructions, along with the headphone dongle, 18-watt charger, braided headphones, and a braided USB-C cable. Seems like a pretty nice package. I've heard many people ask if this new Motorola Razr can still handle those angry closes. You know, like after a phone call, and the phone gets aggressively shut. Today we'll be answering that question once and for all. Now I think it's time to review our new friend. Hi there. Let's get started. Now the thing I like most about this Motorola Razr is the form factor. When it's open, it takes up just about as much space as my Note 10 Plus, which I'd say is a pretty common phone size these days. But the Motorola Razr has the ability to fold in half, and quite literally take up half the space when it's shut. It's a form factor that actually makes sense. Taking a close look at the hinge of the new Razr, we can see some exposed gear-looking things along the side. These don't actually spin like we saw in the Galaxy Fold. These teeth just keep the two sides, both left and right, folding at the same speed, so one side doesn't fold quicker than the other. The paper-thin screen lifts away from the phone body as it starts shutting, and you can quite literally see the light shining through the components. At first glance, this does seem kind of sketchy, but it still feels pretty solid, even if the screen lifting off is slightly unnerving. The bottom edge of the screen tucks a little bit into the base of the phone as it slides down, to compensate for that crease-free fold in the center. There are no folding lines in the center of the screen like we saw in the Galaxy Fold. Motorola did say on their website that this phone is designed with a zero-gap hinge that allows both sides to close perfectly flush to protect the main display. But unfortunately, I still definitely see a gap between the two halves of the phone when it's closed. And I'm not like a dust expert or anything, but dust can still definitely sneak in there. And it's not perfectly flush with a zero gap. Calling it perfectly flush with zero gap is incorrect, at least with my unit. We'll test out the dust thing more in just a second. The front smaller screen is not a fully functional display like we saw in the Galaxy Fold. This is more just for notifications and stuff, and can't control the entire phone. I'm getting distracted though. It's time for that scratch test. Now, the whole trick with these folding phones is that the screen is actually made from a thin piece of plastic. Plastic has multiple pitfalls. For one, you can't apply a screen protector, or the display might break. This is super unfortunate since once again we do start seeing damage at a level 2. A level 3 almost felt like my Mo's pick was going to start cutting through the display. And my fingernails once again can leave a mark on the screen. I was previously excited when I read that Motorola's design had a zero-gap hinge with perfectly flush closure, since avoiding screen damage is one of the main things you want to do with a folding phone. But as we see with the screen this soft, dust and dirt are still going to be an issue. The simplest solution, like I suggested with the Galaxy Fold, is to just vacuum out your pockets every morning and you should be just fine. The outer screen, since it doesn't need to be folded, is made from glass. I can work my way up through the most scale of hardness, and we find that the 2.7-inch outer display is confirmed. Scratches at a level 6, with deeper grooves at a level 7. One cool little Easter egg with this high-tech 2020 Razr phone is that if you go into the hidden settings and drag Retro Razr onto the main drop-down, you can make your sweet new $1,500 phone look like a $15 phone. I'd like to see an iPhone attempt that one. As far as the build quality of the Motorola Razr, the whole thing does feel relatively sturdy. The earpiece grill is made from metal and won't be falling out on its own. The top curve is made from glass, which also protects the front-facing 5-megapixel camera. The original Razr from 2004 only had a 0.3-megapixel camera. The frame is made from metal, along with the textured metal power button, and the volume rocker right below that power button is also metal. The hinge cap is a vital component that holds both halves of the phone together, and is also made from metal. The frame of the bottom half of the phone is also made from metal. The phone is very well balanced on each half of the hinge. The bottom with its plastic chin does include a fingerprint scanner, which is actually pretty scratch resistant. But I still managed to inflict a bit of damage with my razor blade. Even with those scratches though, the phone was able to read my fingerprint and unlock the phone every single time. Not too shabby. The bottom of the razor has a plastic speaker grill and a USB-C charger. If we take a look under the grill plate, we can see that the speaker is positioned on the right side of the phone and does seem to have its own water-resistant mesh protecting the opening. Motorola does say that this phone is splash-resistant. We'll have to assess that claim more thoroughly from the inside when we take it apart. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that teardown. We know that the outer screen is made from glass, along with the glass camera lens that's covering the 16-megapixel main camera on the back, and the dual-tone LED flash, which are both covered with glass. The back panel, however, is plastic. Now, I never had one of these razor phones growing up. I got a job delivering pizzas, and I bought myself the Nokia 6800 instead, with its full QWERTY keyboard. But I do remember how popular these things were. As you can clearly see, this is a razor on a razor on a razor above a razor. The razor logo down here at the bottom of the phone is very securely glued into place and won't be coming off on its own over time, which is, of course, a good thing. With the razor's current price tag of $1,500, you'll probably have to start selling off the old Tamagotchi and Beanie Baby collection from the last time the razor phone existed. I think it's time to revisit that dust situation. Now, obviously, this is a bit on the extreme end of the pocket sand scenario, but phones are probably the most abused pieces of tech on the planet, and since Motorola's hinge does leave a gap, it's something we have to watch out for. I'll let the dust shift around into every possible surface crack and crevice of the razor. It is hard to watch, but it's for science. Planet Earth is covered in dirt, and we should be ready for anything. The dirty phone still functions well enough. Mostly. The screen is not broken yet, but the sound of the hinge is more like nails on a chalkboard at this point, and not as much buttery smoothness like it was before. Looking close, we can see that one speck of dust has already managed to make its way under the screen, causing the light to reflect off the bulge a bit differently than normal. Rather unfortunate. Over time, this might damage the pixels from the back and kill the display. That compromising gap between the hinge and the display is going to cause an issue with dust in the future. Speaking of compromises, since this video was sponsored by Audible, I picked out a few new audiobooks at the beginning of the year to help me improve in certain areas. And Never Split the Difference is what I'm currently listening to. It's about the negotiating tactics that the FBI's lead kidnapping negotiator used in international hostage negotiations. Pretty intense. You can get your first audiobook for free when you visit audible.com/jerryrig or text jerryrig to 500-500. Audible has plenty of podcasts as well, along with A-list comedy and a huge selection of Audible originals. I usually listen when I'm at the gym. Never Split the Difference isn't all just about life or death negotiations. The same tactics can be applied at home, or to help get you a raise, or even negotiate more days off work with your boss. Communication is pretty useful stuff. You can get your first audiobook free with an Audible subscription. Link in the description, audible.com/jerryrig or text jerryrig to 500-500. And thanks to Audible for sponsoring this video. And like I mentioned before, this particular style of folding phone is my favorite so far. Rumor has it that Samsung is about to announce a phone with this same hot dog style folding capability. But Samsung's phone will also probably have the same plastic screen, which isn't a bad thing, of course. It does work. As long as we all know it's plastic, and we all know it's a tad more fragile than glass screens, then we can take care of it. Another difference is that this plastic screen retains no heat from my lighter. The pixels are still very much alive after 25 seconds. The plastic is unmelted and actually still cool to the touch. The usefulness of this knowledge basically borders on zero.